Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about how tightly coordinated and scripted and orchestrated and curated the globalist message is about high rents and high mortgage costs across the Western world. I looked at a current affairs show. I saw a current affairs show in Britain online, and they talked about they accepted the rents were higher and the mortgages are higher and house prices are going. They accepted all that, but said that not once was mass migration mentioned at all in any context, whether it be the amount of students arriving or the amount of actual migrants coming in, illegal or otherwise, or the amount of family reunions where one person gets a citizenship and then they get 50 of their cousins and aunts and uncles and second cousins to come over to the rich first world country to freeload off it. None of that is mentioned. There's only two things they say are the causes. The causes are A, the government isn't building enough housing, and two, that older people hanging on to their houses, and then those bedrooms are not being used to accommodate people. Or three, is that people are putting rather than putting places up for rent, they're putting them on Airbnb and they're getting a higher sort of casual rate. If you rent the place for a month, for example, you might get $4,000, but you only have to rent the place for 12 days in the month. And get that same return if you've got an Airbnb, or that's the argument at least. Now, a lot of these places in Airbnb, they say are places for rent, are really not. They're just a room at the back of a house somewhere. They're not freestanding, self-contained apartments or something like that. Some of them are, but not very many. So this idea that getting people off Airbnb is simply nonsense. Similarly, a lot of the Airbnbs that I'm aware of, at least, people I know who put them up, they're like quaint little rooms at the back of a block of land, and they don't want people in there permanently. There's nowhere to park. There's a whole lot of negatives about somebody staying there on a permanent basis. Anyway, so mass migration is not mentioned. Now, I saw this in England, but I'd recently seen one a fortnight or so ago in Australia, and when I listened to the one in England, it was almost like it was completely scripted. It was exactly the same, exactly the fucking same. The points they raised and the order in which they raised them. So that's way too much of a coincidence. Now, not only that, and this is how curated the message is that we get, is that there were people in the audience that were supposedly asking genuine grassroots audience questions. But they were exactly the same questions that were asked in Australia. It was so they're scripted. They're obviously not grassroots questions at all. The whole thing was an orchestrated, choreographed piece of bullshit to try and convince people that mass migration has got nothing to do with it. Now, there was also one in New Zealand a while ago. I looked at that. That again was about the same, and one in Canada, or there's more than one in Canada. But one in Canada that again was about the same. So clearly the same people are organising and scripting it and arranging for the questions and that. So the whole thing is a propaganda campaign. That's what it is. And they all come up with exactly the same remedies. The government must build more housing. Airbnb is the issue. Older people have to downsize and free up their houses with all those extra bedrooms. That's it. And they all have the same prescription and do all the same remedies. Should mass migration be addressed? What? What's that? What are you talking? Oh, mass migration. Well, have you got a problem with that? You fucking Nazi Hitler. So this is the whole program. Now, I just want to sort of touch on the numbers here. Now, at any one time, there are something in the region of 80,000, give or take, 80,000 bedrooms for rent in, say, Sydney, Greater Sydney, 80,000 bedrooms. Now, the demand for bedrooms, assuming one person per bedroom, which isn't necessarily so when you get mass migrants, some of these Indians and Pakistanis, they'll live 20 to a 2-bedroom apartment. So the numbers, but assuming for the moment one person per bedroom, or even if you assume 2, let's be generous here and assume it's 2 people to every bedroom, then there are more people coming into Sydney than there are bedrooms that are available for rent. So now that won't be the case that every bedroom is used or that every bedroom has 2 people. So I'm being generous. I'm erring on the side of generosity here. But if we look at any 12-month period and the amount of properties that are rented in a 12-month period in Sydney, and the amount of bedrooms those properties have, and then the amount of people coming in. This includes, of course, students. There's not just immigrants. There's students and short-term work visas and all sorts of, various visa holders that are coming in of one sort or another. That's before you get to the illegals and the overstays and so on. Then the demand for bedrooms is 3 times greater than the amount of bedrooms that are available through renting properties. So this is very clearly a problem. Now, so just to sort of use up the amount of bedrooms that are available to the amount of people that come in, it's going to be between 2 and 3 people per bedroom in every case that are going to need to stay there. Now, if you look at the amount of people, the local domestic sort of white population that are renting property, they don't live 3 to every room. So although communal living is more and more becoming a thing if you want to make ends meet. So if you took out the demand from immigrants and students, if you took that demand away from the real estate sector, then you would suddenly have a very substantial rental surplus. Now, some of those people, once the big demand and the easy money from high rents had gone, they may choose to sell those properties, and that's fine too. But the point is that the demand for bedrooms, and this is just in Sydney, the demand for bedrooms exceeds the supply. Rental rooms, yes, exceeds the supply, and therefore we've got an artificial surge in demand for real estate. Now, I've seen this firsthand, where you can get. It doesn't have to be in the downtown areas of the city, by the way. It can be in any area that's say close to a major train station, things like that. Then you can get 30, 40, 50 couples coming to inspect a property. Now, some of them are not in a very good position. There's a relative I was assisting. They were fairly new at it, so I was assisting them. Go and do a few inspections to show them how it was done and how it worked and what the processes were, so they weren't walking around bewildered and so on. And there's some very bad practices going on. Some of the real estate agents will cozy up to someone and say, look, if you want this place, I know we've got it, we've advertised it, and I'll use round numbers here. I know we've advertised it for $100, but that person's offering 110. So if you want it, you're going to have to beat 110. And then they'll wander over to someone else. Hey, that person just offered 120. Do you want to beat 120? Now, that's illegal, but it's widespread and goes on. And desperate people, especially families with children and that sort of thing, they'll sign up for at these outrageous terms on the basis that they're getting, they need somewhere to live and it's urgent. They've just got to do that sort of thing. And so this is quite ridiculous that these sort of things are going on, but the excess demand for real estate is just out of control. Now, the other thing that they're doing is if the real estate agent will go to or the owner, it could be either one, will go to the Indian guy or the Pakistani guy or something like that and say, look, it's only a 2-bedroom place, but how many of your family or your buddies are you going to put in here? 20. And so the owner knows that because there are 20 people in there, at least half of whom will be cleaners or burger flippers or something, that when they pool all their money, they've got a fair bit of money to play with, given that there's 20 of them in a 2-bedroom apartment. So the owner will go, okay, well, I've advertised the rent at $100, but you can have it, but you have to pay me $200 or $250. So this artificially jumps the rent because there are some. So it's illegal to have that many people in the apartment or in the house or whatever. But the council will turn a blind eye, the owner will turn a blind. No one's going to do anything about it. So they can effectively orchestrate this sort of scam. So this also places artificial upward pressure on rental prices. Now, I just sort of the experience that I'm talking to people who we know. They'll go and inspect a place that, for example, is $1,000 a week for rent, and they decide, okay, we like that. They've got the income that can cover it, so we like that. We'll get that place. And so they contact the real estate after the inspection and say, look, $1,000 a week, we're happy to take that, or put in a formal application. And then they get told that, oh yeah, well look, the inspection was really successful. A lot of people turned up. We think we can actually get more. So it's gone up from $1,000 a week to $1,250 a week, and we think we can get it. So they say, well, look, it's still $1,000 a week on the website. Haven't had time to change it. $1,250 is it, up from $1,000. You don't like it, fuck off. And that sort of. So there's a lot of these things going on, which create a degree of chaos in certainly the rental side of things, but also I've been to auctions for buying houses where the auctioneer is supposed to, legally, they're supposed to drop the hammer on, okay, final bid now, I'll use round numbers again here, $100,000 for the gentleman down the back there, going once, going twice, and then they'll just stop. They won't drop the hammer for the third time. And then they'll go, they've got agitators and stirrers that go into the crowd and try and get people to give an extra bid and try and bump the price. So they just stop it, going once, going twice. I think we'll stop, see if we can stir up some trouble. And this sort of thing, that to me is outrageous. But it's again supposed to be illegal, and it's against certainly the ethics. It's an ethics violation. But all the real estate auctioneers fucking do it. You'd be hard pressed to find one that doesn't do it. Now I remember going to housing auctions when I was looking at buying my first property, and I don't ever remember that happening. It would be the people down the back there. Okay, is that the final bid? No more bids. All done. All quiet. Everybody happy. Okay, going once, going twice, going thrice, going to the gentleman down the back or in the front or whatever, and that would be it. There was never this stopping on the second drop of the hammer and then trying to go and stir up someone in the crowd to make another bid. That never used to happen, but now it's just standard practice. So I'm sure this does artificially bump the price of the real estate, and also the fake bidders, obvious fake bidders in the crowd and so on, which again is supposed to be illegal. So coming back to the thing, though, the biggest driver by far is the mass migration of real estate prices and rentals. And if you took that out, then it would be like it was before the mass migration began. And I remember looking at, when I was first, just finishing college and first looking at properties to rent, and there was, I remember pretty much everybody was offering to cut a deal. The rent was, again, I'll use round numbers, $100 a week. And so look, if you're prepared to sign up for 12 months, we'll cut your deal for $75 or $80, or we'll throw in the first month's rent for free, or the apartment, say the apartment was furnished, we'll throw in the furniture for free, and this sort of thing. And they're always willing to cut a deal. And you could get to do a property inspection at your time. When will you be available, Mr. Smith? Oh, 10 o'clock tomorrow. Done. We'll meet you there at 10 o'clock. That sort of thing. Now it's completely different. Inspection time is X. That's it. That's when it is. You want to go and view the property outside of that, too fucking bad. Unless it's a very expensive property, then the real estate will go the extra yard. So this is the vast difference in the landscape here, and it's clearly mass migration. And yet, in all of these current affairs, supposed town hall style meetings, not once is mass migration mentioned, and they mention things that got nothing to do with the crazy excessive demand for accommodation, and you have to, in Sydney at least, you have to be, a good, in peak hour at least, you've got to be a good hour and 45 minutes drive away from the downtown before the prices become reasonable. that's how far out you have to be. And there are people just so they can afford the rent who are spending 4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours a day commuting to fucking work because they can't afford the rent closer in. And looking at a house, say in the outer, the outer edge of the outer burbs in Sydney, the rent can be 3 times higher when you move into the more desirable suburbs closer to the downtown. That's the extent of the difference. But white families that want to live independently, they're at a big disadvantage. They're not living 25 to a 3-bedroom house. They've just got a family. They've only got 1 or 2 incomes, and so even though their incomes may be higher, they're still paying a much higher proportion of their income in rent than the third world people that are living a million to an apartment. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.